Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Gennaro, and looks like we got a decent sized crowd on today. Let's do a sound check real quick, make sure that technology is working all right and everything's coming across loud and clear. So some of you that are currently logged in, if you can just let me know via the question box on your screen and just make kind of an electronic high five, that'd be great. And then we'll get the recording started here shortly and jump into some of the content. Great, guys. Thanks for doing that. Looks like that's all good. So if we want to get the recording started, we'll do a formal introduction and then we'll get things rolling. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Toby Gennaro, and I'll be your presenter for this morning. The topic for today is live trading with Nadex contracts. So I'm going to be talking through, as usual, just a series of specific trade setups that we're seeing in real time in the charts and the markets, and we'll show you what those are, and then we'll take a look at some different options and choices around binary options that we can use to trade some of these setups. Now, for those of you that are on the live webinar this morning, if you have any questions during the session, you can type those into the question box on your screen. I'll be asking you some questions as well, so we'll definitely keep this interactive. And just by way of formality, I need to put up this risk warning and disclaimer, so I'll leave this up for about 30 seconds or so if you can just have a quick read through. What this is saying in brief is that we provide education only, which means we do not give any financial advice. And as you know, trading the markets can be risky. It's not suitable for everyone, and you should seek independent professional advice. All right, everybody good with the disclaimer? And just one more disclaimer here directly from Nadex. If you can have a quick read through this one, and that'll wrap up the disclaimers, and we'll get started here. All right, so let's jump in and get going. So you can kickstart your trading each Tuesday morning with this regular feature from the trading team at Trade with Precision. And with so much going on in the markets each week, how can we spot opportunities across multiple markets and multiple time frames? That's really what we're trying to get at here on these sessions, to show you how we do that and how we navigate the price action. So you can join us weekly for this insightful live webinar where we'll be focused on technical and trend analysis across major markets to help us answer and define this question. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the live charts here and see what kind of trading opportunities we can find for today. I took a look at a couple of charts and that I thought would be good to consider for some potential trading opportunities today, looking around at some of the binaries. So let's go ahead and take a look at these two. First, we'll start off looking at the pound dollar, which has been a pretty strong downtrend, but we'll take a look at some of the lower time frames. I know you guys, a lot of times you're suggesting in your comments, hey, can we do some short 5-minute binaries or work with some of the lower time frames? And those are always tough on these sessions because we just don't have a lot of time. We're trying to find these setups just ahead of when we're airing these events, and the markets don't always obviously cooperate with exactly what I want to do. So but I think I've got a couple here where we can take a look at those and play around and see what those look like on some of the 30, 15, and 5-minute time frames. And then after we look at the pound dollar, we'll take a look at crude oil. That's been depressed for quite a while, and we'll see what that one looks like as well. So give me a minute here just to get my my charts set up so you guys can see everything, and then we'll jump into the contracts. So let's go up here to the higher time frame. Is kind of where I always start on these. So looking at the pound dollar, this has obviously been in a pretty big downtrend on the monthly time frame. And so right now we've got a rally right back into the zone. We're getting a bearish candle set up, but we still have about the rest of the month for this candle to set up and close out before we actually start the next month. So that doesn't really help us a whole lot, but it does help us in the sense that, hey, we're back in amongst that sell zone, and you can see every time we've gotten back up in and around that zone before, we've continued to sell off. But over the next 2 weeks, the market could be up and down within that zone and hang around there for a while. So it doesn't tell us a whole lot. Here on the weekly chart, really just the opposite. We have higher highs, higher lows. On the weekly, we have, the moving averages are not in alignment to the downside. So we have two charts telling us a couple of different things, but we always want to look at the higher time frame chart to kind of get our bearings on where we think things might be going. So on the weekly, we're kind of pulling right back into that that moving average zone, potentially looking to bounce higher. I don't know that that's going to happen. I'd probably err to the downside long term, going with the monthly chart. But let's take a look at some of these other charts like the daily and see where things kind of start to stack up. And what I did was I put in a Fibonacci retracement. I'll do this often whenever we're in an uptrend, like we saw on that weekly chart, where we have a series of higher highs and higher lows. And like you can see here, we're just continually pulling back. Basically, this pullback right here was probably a 50% retracement of this move right here. And then what I did was I put another Fibonacci retracement from the swing low to the swing high, and found out that we were pulling right back in on the nose to that 61.8% Fibonacci retracement level. And the reason that's significant is whenever you're in an uptrend, these pullbacks usually occur within that sweet spot between the 50% and the 62% level. And that's usually where you'll get some bounces back up. Doesn't mean you're going to get a bounce all the way back up to the same level or always a new high. That's typically what happens. But a lot of times, you can get a retracement. And then if the market is rolling over back into, say the monthly pattern on these time frames, which would be to the downside, then you might get a bounce back up into this zone up around here. Then the market might roll over and then continue downward, which would then create that setup on the monthly chart where we'd have that sell candle in the sell zone, and the market would continue to move to the downside. But for right now, what I'm kind of looking at here is I'm trying to find a shorter time frame trade for you guys, so we can work with some of these binaries on a closer level, like within an hour. So I'm looking for a bounce off of this 62% retracement level. And, going with, this trend right here, that's usually a pretty high probability trade. The only problem that we have with this one is this is on a daily chart, which means, trading it with a small amount of time isn't always the greatest idea, because I could get the bounce back up into this level, but it might take, a day or two to do that. But a lot of times off of these levels, a lot of people are looking at these levels, and so sometimes you do get some quick bounces off of here. The 480 chart, the 8-hour, doesn't really tell us a whole lot of things different. All the moving averages are rolled over to the downside, as you would suspect. So, the charts going upward are really from the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. And then we'll go here and we'll take a look at some of these intermediate time frames. You can see we've got a little overextension from the downward move here. So I'd be anticipating, in addition to a move off of that Fibonacci retracement, a bounce off of that 62% level, I would expect a snapback, probably somewhere in around, this level of prior support around 129.51 is kind of what I'd be suspecting. And so with that overextension, typically we're going to get a move back up into the sell zone and then look for a sell-off. Here you can see just a beautiful level right there that broke through. Another thing that you can look for that helps you determine sometimes a bounce point is when I look at these flat levels and I put in a Fibonacci retracement. And what I try to do is I try to line up that level right in between the 50 and the 62%. So this flat level right here, put in a line right there. Get some color on that so you can see it. So right there is where we had that flat level that eventually broke through right here. And typically when it breaks through, it's going to break through for the duration or the length of the consolidation. Here was really the high here to the flat level. And so as you can see, what I do is you can calculate the numbers. What I do is just draw a Fibonacci retracement, put the 50 and the 62% level, and then put that line right in the middle. And then whenever it gets down to this level right here, see 128.51, that's really where it bottoms out. And then usually that's where people are closing out their short position. And so sellers that have been selling short from the break are actually buying back their positions. And then you might have people looking at a scenario like this, looking to get in for a brief period of time and ride that potentially back up to this 129 level. And so those are kind of a couple of different things that I'm looking at on why I would be getting a bounce, potentially off of this level, which is a 62% level on the daily chart. We have the end of the run on this flat level break to the downside going in the direction of the trend. So I'm really looking for kind of just a reversal pattern here, but I've also got a long play on the daily chart, if you remember, that is certainly valid with our trend trading strategies. You just have to recognize from the higher time frames that we are in a downtrending market right here, and any uptrends that we see right here more than likely are going to be short-lived, even though when we look on the weekly chart, we've had a trend going upwards for many weeks. So there are opportunities. You just have to know how to read the price action and understand how long you might be in terms of duration for these trades and what that looks like. So that's another setup right there on the 120 and the 240. And then here, as we get down to some of the other ones, the 60-minute, looking for again a little bounce back up into the sell zone here, because we have everything rolling over. So that would be right around that 129 level. I've got a couple of candles here suggesting that we might get there again on the 30-minute chart, getting up into the 128.8 level, potentially even the 129 level. You can even do another Fibonacci here on some of these, which I like to do, which gives me an idea of how far the bounce might be. And typically you're going to get a bounce into these levels, the 129 level, 129.2 and 129.07 would typically be, and a lot of times you'll see a rollover right at that 50% level. And then that coincides with some of those higher time frames, like the 60-minute, where all of a sudden we'll start to see a bearish candle in the sell zone. But all I'm really looking for is a move from here to here, if we can get it, and I'm looking for it to happen in the next hour based on these smaller time frames. So as we go down to the 15 and the 5-minute charts, we'll take a look. We're kind of oscillating around in that sell zone right here. We had a couple of nice bearish candles set up. We broke through the low, and as you can see, we're still kind of flirting with that. We've had a couple of them here, like this one that broke through the low and then broke up through the high, which invalidated that. And whenever I see some of those kind of scenarios, I can see that the market just isn't giving me, one candle like some of these here, where we're breaking the low and then we're directly moving down in the direction of the overall time frame trend. So for that could be the case right here. Right here we have basically an equal high, so we're going to be struggling getting up around that 128.6 level. I've actually have a trade in place with a binary at 128.620. So we'll go back and take a look at what some of those look like. But this would basically has another 45 minutes to go. If it gets above this level or at this level, we'll be profitable on that trade. If not, it's going to be a loser. So it's not looking too great right here, but a lot of times when we get these pullbacks right off of here, the next move a lot of times could be to break this level right here to a new high. But I've got to keep in mind, again, I'm going against the lower time frame trend at this point, as well as the higher time frame. I'm just looking for those bounce points around that 62% level. So it's not necessarily a high probability trade here, but I just wanted to at least try to get some trades on where you guys can see these things happen within the next hour and see what some of these look like. But if I was going to call a reversal point on a downtrend and try to catch a falling knife, I mean, this is pretty much the best way to do it, but it's not going to be as high probability as something going, with the trend. So looking at this right here, I wouldn't necessarily continue to trade this short. That's the only reason why I'm looking for a potential bounce in the price action. As you can see, we did a double bottom right here, a retest, and then we have all kinds of bullish divergence right here. Even with this lower low, we had a higher low on both the indicators, then with a retest of that level, another higher low. So as this starts to trend upwards, that typically depicts a bottoming point where you're going to get some kind of a relief rally. Not always, but it's usually a pretty good indicator. And then we have the same thing here on the 15-minute. We have a retest right there, a nice higher low on the indicators. And then I don't know if we had nothing on the 60-minute just yet, but we had enough charts there, the 5 and the 15-minute. And if we went down to the 2-minute chart, we probably have the same thing there. So here's what I did based on that. Just a few minutes ago, probably about 20 minutes ago, I got into a trade where we're still at a loss right here, but I got into a trade on, I was looking at a couple of these, and the one that I got into was the 128.62 binaries, because that was really where I thought we were probably going to make a move back up into 129 within the next hour before we got a sell-off. And so we still have 45 minutes for this thing to work out. What I would do and continue here is I'd probably look at one other one a little bit farther out, just below that 129 level, and see if that works for 1375. And what I would do is probably get in for about, I would do another 6 contracts there at that level, and that gives me 2 trades to work with. And then what I always do is go in and put in, what my break-even point is. So if I'm buying in at 13.5, my 1-to-1 break-even point is going to be at 27 going long. So I'll dump 3 of those contracts at 27. That'll give my trade to break even. Any of you guys that have been involved in any of the monthly educational sessions where we're teaching you some of these trading strategies, we're showing you how to do, how to get to the break-even point. That's really the the key thing that you want to do when you have a trade in, because now you have a scenario where I'm going to be break even. I'm going to reduce all my risk at a specific level, and you're committed to that level. Here on this one, I don't have one set up yet for the 28.62, but let's do that right now. Since I bought these at 36, we'll call it 72 is going to be my break-even point. And so I'll end up dumping 3 at the price of 72. And then that's going to get both of my trades completed at a break-even point if the market does what I expect it to do. And we've only got about 40 minutes, so the thing's going to have to hurry up and make a move pretty quickly. But while that's working, let's go ahead and take a look at some other charts and see what things look like. I was planning on looking at oil. And I'm trying to cover some shorter time frames because you guys are always recommending that and suggesting that. So I'm trying to go with some shorter ones to show you how I look at these. So we'll take a look at the crude oil contract here. And again, we have another downtrending chart right here. So we have on the monthly chart, we haven't had a ton of setups there, but as you can see, when the price action gets up around, that in and around that 10-20 period zone, we've had some significant sell-offs in that area pretty consistently. Now, if we do get down and retest this level down here around 40, at that point, we'd probably see some significant bullish divergence on the monthly chart. That'd be a pretty big scenario, but we still have a lot of time on that monthly candle. And then here on the weekly chart, we have really kind of an overall sideways market in between the low here of around, 40, 42, and then with the high up around, 58. So it's been a pretty big gap. The mid-market, the mid-level has been right around 50, which is always kind of a midpoint on these. And one thing that you'll notice on these midpoints is when you see these in the price action and you have a ranging market like this, what you'll find is that the high level, and let me put in a couple of these markers right here so I can help you guys understand where we're at. And then put another one down here. So we've got the high and the low of this range, and you can see everything kind of ranging in there, and there's even kind of a tighter range in and amongst here. But usually there's going to be a level, a line somewhere in about here that's right about in the middle of this whole consolidation period. And what you'll find is when the market is oscillating up and down, it's not going to do that forever. At some point, it's either going to break out beyond this level to a new high, or it's going to break out beyond this level to a new low. And then more than likely, there's a pretty good chance of it moving the length of this consolidation from 42 to 58, probably 16 points, either to the top side or continuing to the downside. So don't have any way of telling that right now. But usually one of the first indicators is when you get a bounce off of the lower end of this range and you get a rejection off of that 50% level, which is that midpoint level. A lot of times it'll make a move halfway up here and then roll over and form maybe a flat level and then break down to the low side. If we were coming down and it was up here at the top side and it came down, hit this level right around 50 and then bounced up, it might make a flat level on the top side and then break up higher. That's really the only scenario where you can see how the direction might be moving. So on this particular one, I'm kind of looking at this as a move off of that 50 level back to the downside and then potentially looking for a flat level to set up here at this level. But this is on a weekly time frame. That could take literally weeks for that trade to set up. That could be something that you can look at going forward. So definitely a downtrending market here with potential for a retest at a level and a bounce. So we've got those things to look at. Here on the daily chart, we've got higher highs, higher lows. So we have a shorter term uptrend that we're looking at. We're right back in and around the 10, the 20, and the 50, looking like we're getting a bullish setup candle. We're back into that zone right there where we could get another move back up to, that 50 level. I've got a Fibonacci retracement in here, so we have a bullish candle setting up at the 62% level, and we have some prior resistance right there, which should now become support, and potentially looking for maybe a bounce off of this in relation to the shorter time frame, the daily chart. So we don't have any real bearish divergence here that we're looking at that tells us that things are going to be rolling over other than the higher time frames. And then looking here on some of these, really kind of nothing here because we've got a lot of sideways action. We actually got a lower high and a lower low, and all the moving averages are rolled over. Here on the 120, pretty much the same. If we're looking at anything right here, looking for a bounce, I'd be looking for something up around that 50% level, right into around 48. So we could get maybe a move from 47.50 to 48, and we can take a look at what the binaries look like in regard to that. Right here, as we get down to some of these, we're right back in the sell zone. We got everything aligned to the downside. We don't really have, we've got some bullish divergence right here. We've got more bullish divergence here with the retest or that new low down here at 47. And so as you can see, the technicals are kind of taking over. We're getting a little bit of a bounce here. Now, I don't necessarily like being in that zone unless I've got a sell candle there. Here, we've actually blown up. On the lower time frames, we're actually starting an uptrend here. The 10, the 20, and the 50 are all in alignment. If we did get a pullback into this level right here at 47.40 and get a bullish candle set up, that could be one more move higher. We don't have anything telling us here that the market's going to roll over on these particular charts other than, a bearish candle potentially on the 15-minute chart in the sell zone, and then a bearish candle setting up on the 30 and the 60-minute. So we don't have that just as of yet. My best guess on this one right here, let me just put it in a quick fib right here to see where we're at. So we're going to bounce off this bottom. We're right back into the 60% zone. I'm not necessarily too interested on necessarily taking a trade here at this level. We're right back into a level of congestion right here. If anything, I think this, would probably roll over as opposed to going higher, or at least it would struggle up around this 47.60 level. And so, at 47.60, let's take a look at oil and see what that looks like. Let's see. We're working with some of the lower time frames. So we've got 33 minutes on this one. We can take a look at that one. 47. So let's see. I don't have a whole lot of options here. 47.59 is currently going for 28. And let's see, 47.59. Let's take a look at that chart again. So 47.60, let me get a line in there for you so you guys can see this. 47.60 is really where that binary would, where that level would be. And you can see when you start to line up these binary strike prices, if we're going long and looking at maybe this 47.8 level as a move in the next 30 minutes. We'd be fighting a lot of price action, resistance, and congestion right there around 47.60 to have a strike price there. I'd be more interested in potentially going short at that level. That would be putting in another lower high, potentially the beginning of, a bearish candle on some of these other time frames, like, the 15, the 30, and the 60. But we do have a lot of, bullish divergence. So really kind of getting contrasting and contrary signals here. Let's take a look and see if there's anything else related to that one. I wouldn't want to be selling that one short at 27 because it doesn't even give me a 1-to-1. That would only be a long scenario. One that I would be interested in maybe selling short would be the 47.39 at 76. So 47.39, let's take a look at the chart again. We'll get another level in there, 47.39. And let's see, pretty close, 47.40, let's call that close enough. So right there, if we got one going short right there, we're kind of in the middle. We would need a move in probably the next, 30 minutes to get down or below that level. At least we could get down that level. We could make, 1-to-1 if we did that. And that would probably be a better option than going long, I think, at this point, since we're right there in the sell zone. Let's take a look at some of these other charts again. Back in close to the sell zone on the 120-minute chart. The daily looks like we're setting up a candle there, but that's a pretty long time frame. Same thing here on that one. We are back around the 62% pullback level, which usually can be a pretty explosive level where we can bust up into that, that 48 level pretty quick. Let's see. For me right now, I'm thinking a little pullback on the 5-minute chart into that zone would probably be a better place. If I was going to get long, up to 48 would be a better place to do it than right here. I could get involved in this trade with only 30 minutes left, and on the 5-minute chart, I could have a series of 5 candles pull right back into this zone and then give me a much better setup at that point than trying to get long here at some overextension from the moving averages. So we could be right going long here. We could be wrong. I'm gonna make a no call at this point and say this isn't something that I want to be involved with in terms of taking a potential loss. So sometimes, when we're trading, we can go through a lot of evaluation and analysis and look at these, and the trade just doesn't stack up, or potentially, the binaries don't line up. In this case, we had a decent binary choice with basically about 25 or 26 points of risk on either a long trade or a short trade, but I just didn't have the setup across multiple time frames that I could really identify as being a good trade setup with a high probability. But we do have some nice trades working out right here. So we got things working out on the 128.62. We're back at the bottom of the hour. We'll be wrapping up this session. So let's just take a look at that chart one last time before we wrap up, and then we'll call it a day. And if you guys want to stay on for the remainder, another half an hour, we'll take a look at that as well. But here, the pound dollar was the one we were looking at, and so we did reach a high up here, up around. Well, that's on the weekly chart. Let's go down to the smaller one. Sorry about that. So here we are. We're looking right at this flat level right here. We're above our level, and as long as we can make a move, back up beyond that level going into the close, we got 30 minutes to do that. Those should be some decent trades. We should hit our 1-to-1, and we've got everything converging here on the indicators, which looks pretty good. And we're only looking for a short move as a counter trend reversal trade. And I listed out all the reasons for that trade. So let me do one more thing. If you guys want to hang on for just a second, let me go through one last slide right here. And so, what Nadex is doing with all these sessions that we're delivering is they're really making an investment in your success as an investor and as a trader. So we've put together an advanced education package that's presented by us folks at Trade with Precision over 3 webinars, about 1 hour each. You don't have to go anywhere. You can watch these from the comfort of your own home. The TWP trading team will be conducting these as live interactive webinars, just like today. So you have the ability to ask questions about the content, work on trade examples together and setups and things like that. So we'll go ahead, we'll teach you all the ins and outs of the trade strategies that I've been using in today's session, except we'll be showing you the strong trending strategies. So I've identified a couple of those today. We also did a couple of reversals. And that way you guys can get a better handle on the details of how we define price action and how we deploy and how we use these strategies properly in real time. So this education package is valued at well over $900 if you bought it directly from us at Trade with Precision, but Nadex has subsidized the cost for you, so it's a complete freebie for anyone with a Nadex account. So pretty good deal for you. If you're on this webinar, you don't have to do anything. You'll be receiving an email invitation the next time we're running this advanced educational series, and you'll be able to take advantage of that. Also, a couple different ways for you guys to get in touch with us. Phone and email listed here for any questions that you might have. You can ask me your questions right now. I'll stick around for a little while longer if you guys want to hang on, and we can go through some more dialogue and look at some more charts as well. 14-day demo accounts are also available, give you some familiarity with the contracts. For current members, if you want to begin trading again, just log in to nadex.com, take advantage of the advanced education webinars, and I think you'll be able to take your trading to the next level. If you're new to Nadex and you'd like to set up an account, just go to, again, to nadex.com, click on the orange box in the top right. I believe it says sign up. Just fill in your details there, and someone from Nadex will respond via email to get you started. So before you sign off, there is a short survey. Please let us know your thoughts, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us. This will conclude the recorded portion for today. I will continue for another 20, 30 minutes or so, and we can look at some other markets and track some of the trades we've going if you want to stick around and join me for that. But other than that, have a great rest of the week trading, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time.